Hey, it's the Fish Guy with Something Fishy, and on today's episode of Fish Guy TV, we're going to talk about your pond's spring cleanout. That's right, it's springtime here in New England, and it's time to get our ponds ready for the season. The most important thing for you to have a successful season with your pond is to make sure you do the maintenance right in the springtime. Everything for the health of your pond moving forward is based on the foundation of what we do in the spring. For us, we're going to do a complete cleanout, draining our pond, getting rid of all the debris so that we have an awesome season. Pond you're looking at here, a little bit green, a lot of debris. This is pretty standard for ponds this time of year that have sat over the winter. However, even if your pond's clear here in New England and it looks pretty good, it's important to do a full service on your pond, especially when you're looking at smaller ponds, less than 10,000 gallons or so. Doing a full service will prevent any future problems that could happen in July. A pond that looks clean today and you skip a spring clean out in July could start to wreak havoc on the things that can occur with the debris breaking down, kind of like a compost pile, and that's not something we want in your pond. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually take a trash pump and drain the pond. A trash pump like this is going to handle any solids and also drain a pond this size in about 15 minutes or so. As the pond is draining, make sure you're capturing some of the water in a large enough bin to house all of the fish in your pond, because we're going to drain the pond right down, so we want to put them in their own water contained on the outside of the pond, like we're doing here. Now that the pond is drained, you can start the power washing. The power washing of the pond will help get the algae off the rocks and all the debris washed to the bottom of the pond so that we can then pump it out. When you're power washing, you should start in your stream and towards your biofalls. Wash all that material into your pond and then start at the top of the pond and work your way down, cleaning all of the rocks with the power washer and getting rid of all the debris. As you're doing this, a pond, of course, is going to fill up with water, and you can just keep pumping it out as necessary. With the pond fully drained, the fish removed, and the pond power washed, it's time to consider if we're going to cut back and divide plants or not. In this case, the lilies are heavily overgrown since the pond is about 4 years old, so we're going to remove about half of them. The lilies can be saved if you get to the root ball, and some of the regular roots can be pulled up, as you see being done here. Now we can move on to cutting the irises. We're going to cut the irises just above the root area, and in this case, because it's been warmer, we are cutting green material. Because it's early season, that will quickly grow back. Usually this early in March, you don't even have any green material at all. The entire plant is dormant. We're going to cut it right back at this point. You'll see us here trimming back plants in and around the waterfall and stream. This is important since we don't want any blockage of the water once we start our system back up after our service. During the cleanout, it's a good idea to change the light bulbs on your fixtures as well. As you can see here, we have a couple feet of cord wrapped around the fixture so that we could pull it out of water if needed to change the bulb. But instead of changing the bulbs as they go out throughout the season, a lot of times it's easier just to do it at the spring cleanout. So regardless of it working or not, we're actually going to change the bulb. It's about a $9 bulb, so it's really worth changing it while we're already in the pond. It's also a good time to make sure there's no moisture in there. If there is, it might indicate the fixture's damaged and not keeping water out. It's also important to clean your filters. With the aquascape system, we clean them once a year. Our biological filters and filter media is located in the biofalls, which you can see concealed by the rockwork around our waterfall. What you see here is called the rock tray. The rock tray holds the rocks so that we can conceal the biofalls. Once the rock tray has been removed, we'll be able to pull out our filter pads, power wash them, and replace them. Now that we have access to the filter pads, we'll pull them out. There should be two depending on the model that you have. Once you pull them out, you want to see if they easily fall apart by trying to tear them. If they stay together like this, it's a good indication that they will last another year or so. These filter pads usually last about 2 to 3 years. With that, we'll go ahead and power wash them, spray them down with a hose, and clean them out. This is a good time to spray into the biofalls to push any mud back through the plumbing system. It will come out into your skimmer, which can be cleaned afterwards. It's critical that we also clean the skimmer, so we'll go ahead and remove the faux rock on the top of it, and then take out the skimmer basket. The skimmer basket can be cleaned just by spraying it down with a hose, and then there should be a pre-filter pad in there as well. You'll see the cutouts in here, that's so that it can accommodate the pump. Again, we'll do the rip test on this as well. This means that the pad should be replaced. Once the pad has been removed, there's a tray underneath it that holds the pad in place, and we'll take that out. We'll use a small rake to remove any heavy debris from the bottom. You'll also notice the water fill valve here that when we're completed will hook up to automatically replenish water to the pond that may be lost due to evaporation. All right, once the pond's been rinsed a few times and is starting to feel clear, we can now add our additives to the pond. The first thing that we have to add is salt. It's going to be 1 scoop per 100 gallons, depending on how big your pond is. Once you are done adding the salt, you can add a detoxifier that'll take all the metals out of the water and chlorines as well. And it's just 1 pump per 100 gallons. The next thing that you're going to want to add is bacteria. If the water temperature is below 50 degrees, you want to add cold water bacteria. Also 1 squirt per 100 gallons, depending on the pond size. You continue adding bacteria throughout the season, except once the water temperature becomes higher than 50 degrees, you're going to switch to regular beneficial bacteria, not the cold water stuff. So those 3 products are going to be critical the day of the service. Your salt, your detox, and your bacteria. With the additives in the pond, we'll let the pond fill out to about halfway and then acclimate the fish into the pond. Remember, the fish are in a container with their old pond water. We want to slowly add water, the new pond water, a bucket of water or so every 15 to 20 minutes until we've doubled the volume of the water in the holding container. Once that's done, we've gotten the fish acclimated to the new water. Take the fish, net them out, and put them into the pond. Remember, that acclimation process could take about an hour or so. Another important tip during your spring cleanout is to fertilize your plants. For every about gallon of root size or root ball of the plant, you want to use a couple of scoops of fertilizer. The fertilizer that we use is actually a time-released annual product, so you put it in the spring and it'll continue to fertilize throughout the season. Make sure you get the fertilizer right into the root area, so it's best to do it when the pond is drained. Other fertilizers are more on a monthly basis, and you'd have to go into the pond once it's full, so the annual fertilizer is much easier. But either way, make sure you're feeding your plants. They'll love you for it, and they'll pay you back with better blooms.